Good morning. Thank you so much for your patience. We have back-to-backs this morning. We'll go ahead and give it just a few more seconds and let people log on, and then we'll get going. All right. Again, thanks so much for your patience and understanding as I got started a few minutes late. But we appreciate you taking your time this morning to learn more about industrial engineering and operations research, MS degree, Master of Science degree. I am joined today by my colleagues, and hello, I always forget my name. I'm Heather Iwata. I'm the Graduate Student Services Manager, and I'm joined by my colleagues Erica Diffenderfer and Yuri Nam. We're also welcomed by one of our current MS students, Jello Francisco. So throughout the presentation today, if you have any questions, please drop them in the Q&A box, which you'll see at the bottom of your screen. And our team here will answer them in the background. And if they are aligned with answering live, we will go ahead and do that as well. Jello is here with us, so if you have any questions about the student experience and perspective, please do drop those in the Q&A. He brings a really valuable perspective. He was also an undergraduate here. So if there's any type of questions you have, he's your person to ask about what it's like to be a student. All right, let's get started here. So IEUR, again, that's the acronym for Industrial Engineering and Operations Research, has 10 staff. We have grown over the last 5 years from 4 of us to 10. And that is due to the growth in our degree programs. So as you can see, we have Erica here from our Graduate Student Services team, and we also have Jenny Huang, who is taking a well-deserved day off today. And you'll see Ginny Sadil, who is also our undergraduate student advisor and also collaborates with us, especially when it comes to the MS degree and any type of GSI, graduate student instructor hiring. And all of our valuable teammates and colleagues who really do come together to make our degrees successful and our student experience positive. We couldn't do it without this great collaborative team. And of course, our wonderful faculty. If you are interested in participating in research with them, please do check out the website as listed here in the header. And you can go ahead and click on their different profiles and see what their research interests are. And I want to call out here Professor Rhonda Ryder at the bottom. She is our head graduate advisor for the MS and PhD programs. So if you have any more technical questions that relate to the degree program, she's a great resource. And Jello here on the call today can also provide some of his input as well. But everybody here, all of our listed faculty, they're all terrific. They really are. I've been here on campus for a number of years, and this has been a really great group to work with. As I mentioned earlier, there's been a huge growth in terms of our staff in addition to our faculty, because of course we can't support our degree programs without our talented and very smart faculty members. And so Ying Kui, she joined our faculty last year. You can see all of her training here, her prior experience, her areas of interest, and also the courses that she is teaching or has taught. She's also currently advising PhD students. In addition, Professor Chiwei Yan has also joined IEOR the same time. And so he hails from University of Washington as an assistant professor there. And he also is currently advising PhD students, but you can see here his areas of interest and what courses he has taught. And this semester, we welcome Qiwen Jia. She comes from Michigan, where she also completed not at Michigan, but she completed a stint most recently with Amazon. And she's currently teaching her first course this semester and will be taking PhD advising students later as well. So I think what's really great too, as a side note with the MS degree, is if you are interested in dipping your toe to see if a PhD might be in your path, an MS is a good tester to that. If you're not quite sure yet. Okay, and then also the our teaching professor, Philip Kruger, just joined us as well. So he mainly focuses on teaching our Master of Analytics and Master of Engineering students. So he doesn't do any advising or formal research. However, he is going to be a huge contributor in terms of helping to teach our professional degree students. Okay, so why UC Berkeley? We're going to talk a little bit more about what makes Berkeley a really a really neat place to be. We have contributed to society in a variety of ways, not only with our Nobel laureates like Professor Dudna, shown here, who won the Nobel Prize in chemistry in 2020, and then Professor David Card from economics. He also won the Nobel Prize in economics the following year. But you can see here just a sampling, a very small sampling of what UC Berkeley has contributed to society. And so hugely influential in terms of how this world works and how it will continue to grow. And of course, we're located in the San Francisco Bay Area, so we're in the hub of high-tech data analytics, healthcare, and design. We are near Silicon Valley as well, so we have access to many different industries, research areas, very, very nearby. And here's a sampling of the different types of industries or companies that are located in the Bay Area. Some of our students have internships or have participated in internships at these companies or currently employed there. So we talked a little bit about Berkeley and what makes UC Berkeley so great and being placed in the great hotspot of the Bay Area. Now, what is IUR? I've been here for 5 years, and when I first arrived in this department, I had no clue, and I had been on campus for almost 20 years. What IUR, Industrial Engineering and Operations Research, does. So hopefully this will help clarify a little bit, but there's two buckets basically, right? There's the OR, operations research, and then there's the IE, industrial engineering side. So OR focuses more on theory and algorithms for optimization, data science, stochastics, and simulation, where IE focuses more on the OR methods to improve, like the practicality part, to improve the efficiency of industrial scale systems involving time, value, information, money, materials, equipment, energy, human resources, and other resources as well. So you'll see that supply chain has come up quite a bit, especially since COVID, and so our little profession, which is hugely interdisciplinary, was reached out to quite a bit to help alleviate some of those supply chain challenges that we were all experiencing during COVID. So what is IUR in terms of its very clear definition? It's the process of inventing and designing ways to analyze and improve complex systems. It improves processes to create a better world. It utilizes math and statistics, so highly quantitative, to understand and quantify the world around us, leverages computing to better manage the massive amounts of information available, and informs business strategy and operations to help leaders of industry and government make better decisions and save time and resources. And here in the gold box next to just the bullet points are the different types of roles that IEOR graduates can go into. So you see that it's very hugely interdisciplinary. We have those who overlap with economics, with the business school, with healthcare, with math, with statistics. IEOR can be applied in many different disciplines, as you can see. So now we've talked about Berkeley, we've talked about IEOR. So why Berkeley IEOR? So here's a snapshot of our history starting in 1954 all the way up to this year. Again, just a little nibble there of what the different history is, what the history has been like for IEOR. But we started off in 1954 as a division within mechanical engineering and have since evolved. And now we have the Bachelor of Arts in ORMS, Operations, Research, and Management Science, that has been recently been renamed to a Bachelor's of Arts in Analytics. We have now our PhD, our MS, our fifth year MS, our Master of Engineering, and Master of Analytics graduate degree programs available to us. So that has massively grown. We had our first cohort of Master of Analytics join us in 2022 and have our third iteration going through currently. And then before that, there was the Master of Engineering degree. So that has now been around for almost 15 years. So you can see that the footprint has definitely grown for IEOR. We are the #2 public school according to US News rankings. However, according to Forbes, we are #1. We've been held steady as the #3 engineering school and #3 in terms of IE programs in the United States. So here is just a general overview of all of our graduate degree programs, and again, sort of the two different buckets of where they're placed. Today, we're talking about the Master of Science degree, which is the focus is more academic. So there's more research, there's more theory, critical thinking, analytical skills, a lot more technical work in the academic bucket. We also have our professional degree programs in the professional bucket. So that is our Master of Engineering and Master of Analytics degrees. So those brings more practical skills in addition to your technical skills, but there is, in a very brief 1-year program, you're adding leadership courses and leadership boot camps to the Master of Engineering degree. The Master of Analytics has a lab, an analytics lab that occurs in the spring, followed by an internship requirement. So more of a practical application piece to the professional degree programs. But again, for the focus of today, we're talking about the MS degree, which is more of our academic degree. So the difference between the MS and PhD degree, the MS is a full-time 1-year master's program, whereas the PhD is normative time is around 5 years, although some of our PhD students finish in 4. But they're, again, both academic programs. So if you did apply for the PhD without an MS degree, this is if PhD is in your trajectory, and that's okay if it's not. It's certainly not a requirement by any means. But if you do decide to pursue a PhD degree and you come in with an MS degree, you won't get another MS degree if it's in IEOR specifically. But if you don't have an MS degree and you successfully complete the first year of the PhD program, you would end up with this MS degree as well. So again, this is a terminal degree program, the Master of Science. And if you are interested in the PhD after the MS program, you do have to still apply separately. It's not an automatic roll-in to the PhD program. And then what's the difference in between our two professional degrees, the analytics and a MEng, Master of Engineering? So you see here, there is, a slight overlap with analytic methods between the two degrees. They are still one-year programs, each of them. However, the MEng, the Master of Engineering, goes from August to May. Master of Analytics is an August to August start date. So, and then because the Master of Analytics includes that internship component to the degree. Okay, I talked a little bit about leadership for Master of Engineering. So we have 8 units of leadership courses, plus a capstone, and then elective courses. Those are the technical skills coursework. And then we have our Master of Analytics degree that has the database design, data analysis, the analytics lab that I was talking about, the 9 units of the technical coursework, and then the internship piece. So more Master of Engineering is more for if you are looking to go into a leadership role within the tech industry. Master of Engineering is a great option. Master of Analytics is more of your technical and application base. So maybe not necessarily pursuing a leadership role, but looking to be more of a contributor in the tech industry. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to Erica.
Hi, everybody. All right, so I'm going to talk a little bit more about the Master of Science degree in detail. So like we said, this is a one-year program, a fall-spring program. It'll prepare students with theory, computational tools, and methods for data-driven decision-making, and in a wide range of different fields. So IUR is very interdisciplinary, so a wide range of domains here. As Heather mentioned, it's a terminal degree, so students in the MS program are not necessarily expected to continue further into the PhD. That being said, like if students do want to pursue the PhD, they must submit a full application and meet all admissions requirements for the PhD application on our website. Next slide. So we talked about the length of the program. The GPA requirement is 3.0 cumulative. There are 12-unit minimum for each term to be considered full-time. The entire program, the MS program, is 24 units minimum, and 12 of these will be in IUR. There is a comprehensive exam at the end of the first year. So after, or there's only 1 year to the program. So at the end of the spring, I should say, there is a comprehensive exam or research project presentation. In comparison to our PhD program, there's no QE. Students don't go through that process. And then there is not a dissertation. There's no thesis option for our MS program. So to compare it to the PhD. All right, so in that fall-spring 1-year program for the MS, 24 units, like I said, and 12 of those being in IUR. Those IUR courses do need to be taken for a letter grade. And then the other 12 units to make up the 24 can be upper division or graduate courses. Students do need to attend our seminar course, which is offered in the fall and the spring, where we bring in different speakers from various industries and academia. And then within the 24 units, students do need to take some courses from different groups. So optimization, stochastics, and modeling. And you can see the courses that qualify for each of these groups listed here. And we'd encourage you to check out our academic guide to learn more about these courses. And then the remainder of the program can include electives from elsewhere. One thing to note about the courses that are listed here is that not all of them are offered every year in each semester, so it's based on faculty availability. All right, next slide. Some of our recent MS students who have graduated this past year. So we have Jeffrey, who is a risk infrastructure analyst. We have Isabel, who actually decided she wanted to pursue a PhD, so she is currently in our PhD program. She applied following the PhD application deadlines last year. And then we have Amir, who is a smart grid optimization engineer. You can learn more about our recent graduate profiles on our website. So we'd encourage you to, oh, actually, that's for our PhD program, but you can check out our profiles on our website and learn more about our students in our academic programs. All right, next slide. Specifically, we want to highlight Pablo Cruz, who was an MS student and graduated in 2021. He is working in Africa as the operational resourcing and optimization lead at Zipline, which is a company that manufactures and operates autonomous drones. So he develops processes and tools to ensure timely and safe delivery of life-saving medical supplies and medicines to remote areas in Africa. So some really cool work here by one of our former MS students, our alum. All right, so I'm going to pass it over to Yuri to talk more about admissions.
Thanks, Erica. Alrighty. So our applications for our entry in fall 2025 cycle are now open. Applications, yes, are now open. And information on that can all be found on our website. Link is below. And once you go to our department website, you'll also be able to get the link to the graduate division application. As for the deadline for the MS and PhD programs, our deadline to submit is Monday, December 16th, 2024 by 8:59 p.m. PST. So please be aware of both the time zone and also that 8:59 p.m. deadline. I know folks are generally used to midnight times, but for us, it is 8:59 p.m. PST. Unfortunately, we cannot make exceptions for applications that are submitted after this deadline. Next slide, please. All right, so these are our application requirements for this upcoming cycle. And so I'm just going to quickly run through those. And no worries if you aren't able to copy down everything I say, because all of this information can also be found on our website under the How to Apply page. So first and foremost, when we're looking at undergraduate education, we do require a bachelor's degree from an accredited institution or a recognized equivalent, and sufficient undergraduate education that would prepare you to succeed in your graduate work. So that would be to succeed in the MS program in IEOR. And so to demonstrate that as part of your application, you will need to upload some academic records. If you are a domestic applicant, we're just looking for a transcript or transcripts from all post-secondary institutions attended. And while we do prefer we strongly prefer official transcripts, for domestic applicants, we will also accept unofficial transcripts. However, they do need some information on them. So at minimum, we need to see the full name of your institution, as well as your full name as it appears on your application. So if you're using a nickname on your application, for example, that does need to be shown on your unofficial transcript. In addition, we do need to see a chronological listing of all classes and grades. Now, if you are an international applicant, in addition to submitting your transcripts, you'll also need to submit, and first, let me just clarify what I mean by an international applicant. So if you attended an undergraduate institution outside of the United States, then we would need to see a transcript as well as a translation by certified translators from the American Translators Association or the Ministry of Education. Or you can submit an official World Education Services, WES, evaluation along with your transcript. So that covers academic records. In addition to the records itself, we are looking for sufficient academic preparation to prepare you for graduate study. And so at minimum, applicants to the MS program in IEOR should have 2 years of undergraduate mathematics, and this includes calculus and linear algebra, in addition to a course in probability or statistics. And we also want to see a demonstration of competency in a scientific programming language. Strong academic preparation includes courses in one or more of advanced maths, operations research, engineering, and computing. On our website, we do post a link to a UC Berkeley course that would fulfill some of our requirements for prerequisites. And so you can click through that and compare your course syllabus or your past courses to that class to see if it would fulfill that. Next up, in regards to quants, we do require the GRE. The GRE is the only test that is accepted, and so in the past, we've had some folks ask if they could submit, for example, the GMAT. Unfortunately, the GRE is the only test we accept. That being said, there is no minimum score required for the application to our department. When you're submitting your test scores, you'll use the UC Berkeley institution code 4833 to submit your GRE. It may prompt you to submit a department code to send your scores. You do not need, you can just leave that blank. You don't need to fill that in. All scores will be sent to the Berkeley Graduate Division's Berkeley Graduate Admissions Office, and they will make sure your scores are routed to us. In addition, we do have a timeline on when GREs must have been taken. So only tests taken within the past 5 years are acceptable. So that means for this upcoming or the current admission cycle, tests must have been taken before June 2020 to be accepted. In addition to that, tests must be taken by our application deadline, December 16, 2024. And so if you decide to take a test after the deadline has passed, unfortunately, we would not evaluate those scores along with your application. We do have GRE exemptions available for UC Berkeley alumni and students. And so for folks who graduated from UC Berkeley with a degree with a GPA of 3.5 or higher, so that's cumulative or advanced, or for folks who are current UC Berkeley students who have at the time of application submission a GPA of 3.5 or higher, cumulative or advanced. And advanced just means your GPA from coursework taken in your final 2 years of undergraduate study. The GRE would be waived for those folks. Speaking of tests, for international applicants, this is a graduate admissions requirement, but we do need evidence of English language proficiency. So in other words, you would need to submit either a TOEFL score or an IELTS score. And so once again, to clarify, international applicants are those who received or will receive their undergraduate degree from an institution outside of the US. Now, the graduate division does have some waivers and exceptions available for this requirement, so please make sure to check out their website. And as I noted before, this is a UC Berkeley graduate admissions requirement, so unfortunately, our office would not be able to provide any exceptions. You would need to go through their office to get that. Moving away from tests, we require 3 letters of recommendation. And just to clarify, these are 3 electronic letters. So unfortunately, if your letter writer physically mails us their letter, that would not be counted toward your application. Any letters submitted past the required number would not be reviewed. I also believe the Slate, our application system, would not allow you to provide more than 3 letter writers. And if you have less than 3 letters, then your application would be considered incomplete. Now, we strongly prefer that these letters come from a current supervisor, a former supervisor, faculty, or other individuals with whom you've had significant professional interaction. So what that means is you may know someone who has a really big and important title, but if you didn't have a lot of interactions with them, they wouldn't be able to provide you with the best letter. And so we'd much rather hear from someone who truly knows you. Additionally, we don't recommend you get letters from friends or family just because it would be a little biased and it wouldn't be taken as seriously during review. If you want more information on the letters of rec, we do have more language about that on our website and on our FAQ. For the electronic letters of recommendation, when you are filling out your application on Slate, you'll just enter their email address and then hit send through Slate, and then your letter writer will get notified of your request, and they'll be able to submit everything through their own portal. And just to reiterate, the letters of recommendation must be uploaded by your letter writer by our application deadline. So if it is uploaded after the December 16th deadline, there is no guarantee that it would be reviewed. Moving away from letters that other people are writing for you, we do require we have two essay components for our application. So the first essay is the statement of purpose. And just to put this succinctly, your statement of purpose is your academic statement. And this should really convey why you're interested in the MS and IEOR, what you will contribute to the program, and what you plan to do after the program. So you're really stating your purpose. And the second essay is the personal history statement. And this one is, as the name suggests, a little bit more personal. This one will provide insight into who you are as a person and any personal experiences that have really influenced you to apply for graduate studies in IEOR. Both of these essays should be concise. So we are ideally looking for approximately 500 to 1,000 words, which is approximately 1 to 2 single space pages if you're using a 12-point font. And we just really recommend brevity and clarity along with organization in those. After those essays, we also require a resume or CV. So you'll upload your resume along with your application. And this resume will provide our admissions committee with a more in-depth understanding about your academic and professional experiences. And last but not least, in order to submit your application through Slate, you will need to pay an application fee. And this year, if you are a US citizen or current permanent resident, the app fee is $135. And for all others, the fee is $155. Now, if you go to our website, to our how to apply page, and you go all the way down to the application fee dropdown, we'll have information on application fee waivers. And for the IEOR MS program, we do have 3 possibilities for this waiver, so definitely read through those. I do want to highlight that our third option, which is the Berkeley IEOR application fee waiver request, that one does need to be submitted no later than December 2nd. So that's basically 2 weeks before your application deadline. And this is just to ensure that everything is processed in time. So information about all of that on our website. So those are all of our application requirements. And before we move on, I do want to highlight that our admissions committee holistically evaluates all applicants. And so what that means is we're not really placing more emphasis on one aspect over the other. We're truly looking at your application as a whole when we're evaluating. Next slide, please. Okay, so some important reminders. So first and foremost, this is a UC Berkeley graduate admissions requirement, and you may only apply to 1 degree program at UC Berkeley per admissions cycle. And so, for example, we get some questions from folks who just aren't sure whether they want to apply for the MS or PhD, MS or analytics, Master of Engineering, etc. And so in that situation, please read through our website just to figure out what your career goals are. If you have any questions, you can meet with some of our advisors to really hash through that, because at the end of the day, you will be limited to applying to only one of those programs. Secondly, I did mention this earlier, but the application process is entirely electronic. So please do not mail us your academic records or request letters of recs to be sent physically to our office. Unfortunately, they will be ignored. They won't be uploaded to your application, and it will appear as though your application is incomplete. Speaking of the electronic application, please remember to submit your application. So even if your application itself is complete and you have all of your supplemental materials submitted, unless you hit submit, it will not be considered submitted. And so just make sure you do that before our deadline. And last but not least, an application will only be considered complete and reviewable if all materials are submitted electronically by the deadline. And this includes letters of recommendation and official test scores. So that means your letter writers must make sure, so do check in with your letter writers, but they do need to submit their letters on their ends by that December deadline. And for your official test scores, they'll need to be received and also verified by UC Berkeley by the deadline in order for your application to be considered complete. And I do mention that because it does take up to 5 to 15 days for ETS to send test scores to UC Berkeley and for them to get verified. And so just make sure you're giving yourself ample time as you're doing that. One thing to note is that you can request your letters of recommendation and also request test scores to be sent to UC Berkeley before you physically hit submit on your application. So if you're getting a head start, I highly recommend doing that since those are definitely the portions that are less so in your control. And ooh, there was one more thing I wanted to hit about that. Let's see, ETS, GRE. If I remember, I will pop that into chat. But yes, oh, yes, I was going to say, after you hit submit on your application on Slate, unfortunately, you will not be able to make changes to anything, any of the materials uploaded. So that means like you won't be able to update your essays or update any of the components that you filled in. So do make sure that all of the information is correct before you hit send. Next slide, please. All right, enough about application requirements. Super excited to talk about our ambassador program in IEOR. So our Berkeley IEOR MS ambassador, Jello, is actually here with us today. And our ambassadors really help us to chat with prospective applicants and students so that you guys can learn more about our program, student life, and opportunities that are available at Berkeley. So if you're curious about coursework or career prospects, then please feel free to reach out to our ambassadors. Jello is our ambassador for the MS program. His email is down below. And would you like to quickly introduce yourself, Jello?
Yeah, for sure. Hi, everyone. I'm Jello, as you already mentioned. I'm currently the ambassador for the MS program. I was an undergrad in Berkeley IOR, so I'm in the 5th year master's program, but same master's program regardless. I did internships in um, tech and in finance, and I'm planning to go to finance after I graduate. Currently in Berkeley, I'm a graduate student instructor, and I'm also doing research with a professor. I've been planning to publish a paper soon, but yeah, I think that should be it. I'm looking forward to answering questions on email or on here.
Thank you. And so if you have any questions about student life or you just want to get that insight, definitely take advantage of this opportunity as we're here today to pop those questions into the Q&A. Next slide, please. Alrighty, so as we're winding down, we do have some upcoming info sessions for all of our graduate programs at IEOR. And so coming up next week, we have our Master of Analytics Industry panel where you'll be able to learn more about career prospects and just learn about where our graduates go. The following week, we have our MS and PhD info sessions for UC Berkeley undergraduate students. And then the next day, we have an in-person info session for Berkeley undergraduate students about the Master of Analytics program. Opening it back up to all students the following week, beginning of November, we'll have a faculty roundtable where we'll be joined by faculty to talk more about Master of Analytics opportunities. And then after that, we will have our Master of Analytics information session. So scan that QR code, follow that link, and we'll be adding additional November info sessions as we make our way through October. Next slide, please. And last but not least, you can connect with us through many ways. So you can find us on Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn. We also have our website. It's ieor.berkeley.edu. And once you're there, you'll be able to just get information on all of our programs. I highly recommend going through the MS page and then looking through the how to apply page where it'll reiterate everything that I've been talking about. So if you weren't able to copy down everything, no worries. All of that information is there. In addition, I highly recommend reading through our FAQ. We updated our website over the summer, and part of that was to go through our FAQ and really look at the most common questions we've received during our past admission cycle. And so you'll be able to find answers and clarification there. Also, on our website, you'll be able to join our mailing list, or you can use that bit.ly link below, and you'll be able to receive any updates about the IEOR program directly into your inbox. So it's a great way to stay connected. And last but not least, if you have any questions, please feel free to contact us. Our admissions inbox is gradadmissions-IEOR@berkeley.edu. And we are more than happy to answer any questions you may have or point you towards in the right direction to get those questions answered. All right, next slide, please. And that brings us to the end of our presentation. And so how are we doing on time? Looks like we have 13 minutes for Q&A.
All right, I see one question here asking about TA or RA opportunities. So graduate student instructor or graduate student research opportunities. Let's see. And if international students can apply for those. So there's like a second part to the question, so we can handle that part, this part first. Jella, do you want to speak to that?
Sure. It's definitely doable. I'm a master's student and I'm currently a student instructor or graduate student instructor. But if you're coming into Berkeley as a new student, it's likely you're gonna have to do it in your spring semester just because, I it's usually good, or professors prefer people who already know to like help them teach their classes. And so that's just my experience. Might be different from for others, but that's just what I've seen. So usually if you're a new Berkeley student, you'll get to your opportunities the spring semester of your degree.
Thank you.
Thank
And
you.
students are also welcome to look at opportunities in other departments besides IUR. But we just want to say that, these opportunities are not a guarantee, but feel free to look into them. Go ahead.
I also tossed a link into chat, so that will lead to our FAQ page. And the third question under that page is what funding is available to incoming students. And we have some links to other opportunities for funding listed there.
All right. And then the second part of the question was, can a student begin a startup while they're in the degree? I'm not sure if anyone here has experience or have heard of someone working with a startup.
I think it depends upon the full context of it. So we have heard of students who have started their startup shortly after their degree, but they're sort of working on the idea of it while in the degree program, if that makes sense. There are programs like the Sudarja Center for Entrepreneurship and Technology, SCET. They're a really great unit that helps with specific startups. You can look on their website for more information if you're interested in doing that. And then just to circle back to your question too about the teaching assistant or research assistant positions. So generally speaking, there are some requirements, which is why Jello was also recommending spring or the second semester of the degree program to participate or apply for these positions, because the university does have specific baseline requirements that need to be met before a formal appointment for a teaching assistant or research assistant position can be offered. And those are usually available to meet some of those requirements over the summer before matriculation or the beginning of the degree program. But it's certainly a viable option. And there are many departments here on campus who do have what they're called GSI, graduate student instructors, or reader positions. There's tutor positions. They all have different types of categories. So we really do encourage you to take a look and see what each of those different types of job titles cover. And you know, I think departments do their best. They're usually available, just in different ways. So, but like Erica said, they're unfortunately not guaranteed, but definitely worth a shot to apply. Next question. Oh, are the master's courses and the career path of former graduates available on the website? I think that is this more of a placement question, I think.
Yeah, I think maybe as far as like the courses, we do have our handbook. So we can we went over that in our slides today, and we plan to post the slides on our website, so you can reference that later. But we also have our Iowa Graduate Student Handbook, where you can reference what courses are required for the program. As far as the other piece, we do plan to add more information to our website about alumni. I'm going to drop something in the chat in just a second, but if anyone else wants to speak to that.
Jello, would you be able to share a little bit? I think that this is, we won't list the type of the specific courses students are taking that supplement their career, just because that is a privacy thing. However, Jello, if you're open to talking about your experience, about what kind of courses you took and perhaps what your future career trajectory might look like.
Yeah, for sure. I think a big part of it, at least from experience and especially my undergrad experience, a lot of my internship was about using statistics in a lot of different ways, like being smart about using data, just because a lot of companies do not have data. And so there's these techniques that you could use to maybe, simulate data or whatever. But those classes in simulations, data analytics, statistics are what helped me with parts of my internship. Others are more process optimization, like you get to learn about thinking about, how do you reduce variation in like a process to make sure that it's predictable and whatnot. And those classes, I feel like my undergrad classes were kind of like an intro to my grad classes. My grad classes are going into much more depth into like these things. And there are a lot of electives I try to take as much as I can, but there's only so much time I have. But it's a lot of interesting classes that you could take depending on what track you want to be in.
Jello, can I also ask a follow-up? In terms of your coursework and GSIing simultaneously, how's that been going for you?
It's been doable. It's been doable. I think it really depends which class you're GSIing for. So the class I'm a TA or GSI for is one of the first classes that IOR data science students take. And so, a lot of people are still trying to get used to upper division. So it does take more time, but I do enjoy it. The professor is very, if I'm feeling stressed, then the professor is able to like step in and take some of my work off of me. Like he's very understanding. Like everyone is there to help you. Like the core staff is there to take burden off of you if you need it. And so it's been doable. Coursework, of course, it's graduate coursework, and especially it's PhD level coursework for most of them. So it's a bit stressful, but it's been doable. It's been doable.
Thanks. How many hours a week do you have of GSI, and then about how many hours of coursework per week?
For GSI, on average, it's been maybe 5 hours a week, and that's including my 2 office hours and my 1 hour discussion. And so outside of the those required, I guess, hours, I write the homework for like 2, 3 hours. This is midterm season, so it was a bit longer, but usually it's like 5 hours. Coursework, I think per week is 20 hours, including homework and trying to understand, reread my notes and figuring out what's happening in the class.
Okay, Thank you. And so, but yeah, so I'm asking these questions for all of you to hear what Jello has to share in terms of if you're thinking about, and this goes not only here, but perhaps at any other degree program combining GSI work, which is usually 20 hours a week, which includes, you know, attending lectures and your office hours and the formulation of exams and homework and grading and all of that that Jello's talking about, that collectively it's usually a 20%, 20-hour per week role on top of an estimated 20 hours of coursework. So just something to keep in mind with that. Thanks, Jello. Appreciate you answering those questions. From your experience, how could someone with a background in civil engineering fit into the program? I don't have the experience for this one. Jello, do you know any civil engineers who have gone into the MS program?
I don't think, at least in the current cohort, there isn't.
Yeah.
Usual backgrounds are from, applied math, statistics, data science. But maybe in previous cohorts, I'm just not familiar with other alumni.
Yeah, I can, on the PhD level, when this question comes up, and even on the professional degree level too, that usually if you have the solid quantitative background, so more heavy on the math, from what I understand, civil doesn't require quite as much math. So if you have the prerequisites for that, regardless of what your major might be, that is what's most important. So we want to see heavy on the linear, algebra, calculus, statistics, probability. Those, not all those are requirements, but that is always helpful to have that.
And we do have like our prerequisite information for each of our programs listed on our website. So we definitely encourage you to check that out. The last question, I think we might not have time for much more after this, but the last question is how to differentiate between image, analytics, and MS. I know one of our slides, we kind of went into this a little bit. For the image and MS, those are both fall spring programs as far as the time, and then analytics is fall, spring, summer. The MS is our academic program, along with the PhD, which more heavy in the theory and the technical side of the coursework, whereas the image and the analytics are professional programs, so a little bit more on the applied side for coursework. And then the image and analytics programs, the image having a leadership focus, whereas the analytics having that analytics focus, I should say. But the image has a capstone project that's like the big milestone, and then the analytics has an internship. Heather, did you want to provide any additional information?
No, that was a great overview.
All right. And I know I think someone else was asking about like, what kind of degrees normally apply to our program, but like we said earlier, we're looking for that strong quantitative background and people who have those prerequisites. So please do look at our website to review, what kind of coursework we're expecting students to have. All right, I think we're going to go ahead and wrap up our MS info session here today. We appreciate you coming to the info session, and if you have any additional questions, we do encourage you to send us an email, our grad admissions email address. Feel free to reach out to Jello as well if you want more information from the student perspective. Also, if you want to set up an appointment to meet with us to talk more about your specific situation, feel free to do that too. Thank you again for attending, and we look forward to seeing your application. Bye, everybody.